Good morning and welcome to the TC Dojo from Single Sourcing Solutions. The TC Dojo is a TechCom community that is driven by you. Tell us what you want to learn. You choose the topics and we find the experts. In the TC Dojo session today, we are lucky to have Bruce Poropat as our visiting Dojo Master. Bruce is well known in the San Francisco Bay Area technical communications industry and in the local STC circles. He's worked on content projects for Bank of the West, William-Sonoma, Charles Schwab, PG&E, universities, Safeway, The Gap, and many, many others. He works on plain language conversion for Caltrans and the Port of Oakland. He converts dense legalese into normal language. Bruce, we're thrilled to have you today. He wants you to save questions to the end, but be sure to type them in when you think of them so you don't forget what you wanted to ask. Bruce, I'm going to change the presenter over to you. Show your screen and it's all yours. Perfect.
Good morning, everybody. Minimalist writing is just the idea that you use the least content for the message. The concept is common across all forms of minimalism, and minimalism is a word that gets applied to visual art and not going to the next frame. Okay, here. This is music, and it just skipped past that without playing the thing. It was going to play a few bars of a minimalist composition, which is, let's actually see if I can go back to that.
Yeah,
this is not,
it has to launch, remember?
Right, I thought it had, and then it. So this would go on for about 20 minutes, shifting very slowly through different layers of chords.
Bruce, you're going to want to stop the playing so that we can hear you. There we go.
Yeah. Anyway, that would go through about 20 minutes, shifting slowly through different sets of chords. And so you hear a development, but it's just not the same as in other Western music where there's a lot of harmonically complicated stuff going on in a more, it's not really more structural, but anyway, you get the idea. Now it won't go to the next.
You have to switch back to PowerPoint and close the YouTube window.
Yeah, you don't need to. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I was looking for the way to get out of the player. It was the escape key. Haiku, good example of minimalist prose, probably the original minimalist prose. This is often attributed to Ernest Hemingway, but it really wasn't him. He quoted this, though, apparently. This was the earliest known occurrence of this is in a newspaper in Spokane, Washington. And it's given as an example of a six-word novel. Minimalism in tech writing just means the fewest, most direct words that deliver a message. And the prose really is subordinate to the message, which is important because that's the opposite of, for example, creative writing, where you're trying to call attention to the words themselves and the way they deliver the message. With tech writing and minimalist writing, you really don't want people necessarily to remember what words you use. You just want them to have that message. The Nuremberg funnel, that image on the right, is in Germany, a well-known metaphor for sort of cramming information into people's heads in the most direct way. They mean it in a jocular way, not a literal way. Maximalism, if there were such a thing, would mean prose that says too much or uses too many words, redundancy, extra information, phrases in places of words, passive voice, big big consumer of paper. Word fat, that object is a deep fried Twinkie, something you can buy from a chip shop in Scotland. This is a good example. This is a sentence where you can minimalize this somewhat just by taking out some of the words. You don't even have, and then just pushing everything together. If you do rearrange the words, you can make it even shorter. And you can see that specifically, if you're working on a large document and you see one or two occurrences of there are probably going to be more. And so you can just do a global search for there are, and almost every sentence that has that will be improved by having it go away. It's a good example of just pure word fat. Here's a really common message. You might get this in an email. You just ordered something from somebody. Your order has been shipped. We don't know by who, because it's passive voice, but you know. And the person reading this knows they ordered something. They just need the most tiny confirmation. We're getting there. That's a little better. And that, again, so far we're just basically taking out words. And that really is all the person wants to know. They're going down through their email, reading one after the other, 2 words and the part number, they're done. Better yet. A lot of the examples in here are actual real examples captured in the wild. In the Republic of Ireland, a PIN has been required with chip and PIN enabled cards since March 17, 2007. All that's doing is just making it active voice and pulling out words that don't carry their weight. This is this again is captured in the wild. This was from something, I think this was an article in Wikipedia on how to write more succinctly. Again, just a little bit of shift. You'll notice all the after examples are always shorter. Just going to active voice will make it shorter. Anything that begins with in order to is suspect, or just anything that begins with in order. You can always just chop off in order at the beginning of a sentence, usually in the middle of a sentence, but definitely at the beginning. It doesn't do anything. Sorry, I had the phone call. So lists are certainly a place. Lists themselves help you minimize prose, but the lists themselves also have to be minimal. You
stuck?
No, I'm just. I wish I had let people ask questions in real time, because that.
Well, there's also an audio, right, to the video, so you can add a little more.
Anyway, now imagine you're on some website, as you often are, and you click. You've just filled out a form, and then you click a button to submit the form for processing by the back end of whatever the web application is. Please wait and then you get this message. Please wait while your request is being processed. What it's wanting you to do at this point is just wait. It's just the simplest thing, but here's this great big long clumsy sentence to deliver that message. Now you can shorten it a little bit. That is pretty good, but really, this is all the person needs to know. And one of the things that this message is trying to tell the user is that the system hasn't crashed, something is going on. And it doesn't really say that because it could have crashed at any of these. Even on that last one, it still could have crashed because that little bit of movement, which kind of makes them feel like it hasn't crashed, is just an animated GIF. So it doesn't really convey anything, but what it does do is it doesn't waste their time. All they want to know is something is happening, and that's why the screen isn't changing. These are all phrases that you can find in countless documents. You can search for these on Wikipedia if you feel like just editing a page for fun. You can track down pages that are badly written just by searching on phrases like this. And each of these correlates to typically one word. And I can email this list to anybody who wants to see it. But this is a hit list. When I'm editing large documents, I won't necessarily search on all of these, but if I see one or two of them that's used a lot, then I just figure, well, I'll fix all of those at once. And these are all, I have to stress, these are all perfectly good English words. These are not bad words to use in various contexts, but in the context of most technical writing or most nonfiction, technical writing particularly is usually present tense, so you want to find all occurrences of will and see if it really is talking about something innately in the future, or whether it's just someone writing out of force of habit in the future tense. In order, I just talked about a couple of slides ago, in order to, in order for, in order that, there as in there is a thing that, instead of just, leaving that off. Shall, there's really no case ever where shall is good. The legal profession has always loved shall, and there's been a real shift in the last 5 or 10 years away from it because in plain English, shall really doesn't, it's really just a form of will, and it doesn't imply, they use it to imply something that's required, but it doesn't really mean that necessarily. And there have actually been lawsuits over, no, it just said that shall happen. It didn't say we had to do it. Which check, and that check for style, what I mean is, which by convention, not by a strict grammatic rule, but by convention in American English, which is you use in a restrictive phrase, the house down at the house down on the end of the road, which I used to live in, preceded by the which in that context preceded by a comma. In casual writing, that's not a big crime. In technical writing, where you're trying not to distract anybody with a real or imagined thing they might think, that something they might imagine as a grammatic error, you just don't want to do it. And here's Mark Twain was really big on minimalist writing. If you read the latest, the series of books that were his culled together as his autobiography by the University of California. He talks in there about writing briefly and character development and very interesting things relating directly to writing. And that's it. That's all I got.
Well, we've got a couple of really good questions. We've got one that says, to support translation, style guides usually suggest writing complete sentences such as ending list stem items with the following. For example, you can do the following rather than you can. What do you say about this?
It might depend on the target language. It might also depend on the translator. Really good, there's a lot of stuff that comes up that has to do with, well, to make it easier for translators, we have to do this or we have to do that. But translators I've talked to say, you know, we speak the target language. We know how to make it clear. So I kind of, without asking that a translator that specific question, I suspect that they would say, if we think it should be the following, we'll convey that in the target language. So I don't think you need to really worry about that. And I don't think it's ever necessary to compromise the English prose to accommodate the target language if there is going to, you know, if it's going to be for translation, any more than it's necessary to translate really strictly into the target language things that are going to be confusing to readers of that language.
We had a similar, or we had a session that touched on that actually early January, Tracy and the maps session, so you can look that up on YouTube. Yeah, she actually, they do this, what you do, and they call it obvious text, right? You don't need to state the obvious. The translators are now know to do that kind of thing. All right, but there's a follow-up question. Similarly, I noticed you drop a lot of the word the from your examples. That's a word required in other languages.
Well, again, you know, if it's required in another language, they'll put it in. You know, it's, you have to kind of trust the translators at some point. You know, if you just write to conform to what works the best in English, now the way, some of the ways to accommodate translation that I think are much more valid, actually all the things I can think of that accommodate translation that I think are valid are also things that accommodate minimalist prose. Don't use idioms, don't use well, actually, long convoluted sentences are really hard to translate. A benefit of minimalist prose, I think, is also that it's easier to translate. And if they need to put in, you know, participles or other parts of speech to make it clear on their end, they'll do that. You know, they're not going to go, well, I would say le, but I can't because, you know, the source doesn't say the. They're not going to do that.
Okay. We have a suggestion for your hit list. Let's don't should our customers. Can we put that word on the hit list, the word should?
Yeah, sure. Let's don't should. Well, how do you mean that?
She's should as a word, as the in quotes. Can we put the word should on the hit list so we're not telling our customers should do something like they take a stand on it, I'm guessing. Karen, can you follow up with that? Am I reading your question right? So what do you think about adding the word should to the hit list?
Yes. I'm trying to think of and it seems to me that is a word that I've run across, you know, I've seen that word used when there's no should about it. You know, when you push the start button, the engine should start. You really want to just say when you push the start button, the engine starts. And it is so I don't know if that's the same context, but that should might already, I have more than one hit list, and that might even already be in one. Because it's definitely an overused word. I think sometimes people are trying to write softly, like it's like trying to be diplomatic or something, or polite, and they're not trying not to order people or be too, I don't know, concrete, and little wiggle words like should creep in.
Yeah, her example was, you should install the software on your computer.
Yeah, you don't need you or should. Install the, you have two occurrences of you there too. Your. You is and I really like second person, but you is one of the most, every year I'm a judge in the touchstone contest, and the most overused word is you. I've seen you or some form of you 7 times in a single sentence is the record.
Wow.
And it's bizarre, it's you should do this thing when this thing does this thing, and and so just actually I would put you on the hit list, although I don't want people to never use it. I just want them to think about it. But that one, you should, you should do, what was the example again?
You should install the software on your computer.
Yeah, you should is pure word fat there. It does nothing. You just lop that off, those 2 words off, capitalize the next word, and you're done.
And that's what she did in her follow-up. Way to go, Karen. She says she sees that sort of structure, that same problem in a lot when she edits documentation. She sees it a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, a lot of stuff, I don't want to, a lot of stuff gets written by programmers because a natural kind that you edit gets written by programmers because it's a natural flow. A lot of the fastest way to do a lot of things is just to have the developer write it and then you fix it up. And I don't want to knock their writing too much because that's not what they do. It's not their job. I can't program. They can't write. And that keeps all of us employed.
Oh, we've got a good question here. Have you done any research or work to see how search tools react to minimalist language? I would think minimalist writing practices would help full-text algorithms return better results, even if the topics are lengthy in terms of word count. With search being hot right now, I think you could win lots of style points if you showed it improved in search. What do you think?
I suspect that minimalist prose, I don't have figures to back this up, so I'm going to say suspect. I suspect that minimalist prose helps a lot with search because I kind of assume that their algorithm doesn't just look for keywords in the text. I mean, not take keywords like you would embed, in the search HTML header, but just when it looks at the page, it's not just looking at how often you use the word refrigerator, but what percentage of the total text that is. So if it is doing that, I don't know for a fact that it does that, but it seems logical it would. The fewer extraneous words you have, the fewer you shoulds you have, the higher that page will score for the presence of that keyword refrigerator or whatever your keyword is.
Yep, they do call those, I've seen them called stop words. They're not important. All right, so folks, write in if there's time for a couple more questions. Bruce, I'm going to announce what's coming up, and then we'll come right back to you. Hang on one second. Let's show you what's coming up. Our next mastermind session is next week. The mastermind group is a monthly member-driven discussion group where attendees present their specific challenges on topics in their mind right now in a confidential and supportive environment. These groups have been cited as being extremely valuable to attendees, especially if you're an independent or 1 or 2 writer team or the only tools person on your team. Having anyone you can discuss things with can be very useful. And that's what we're seeing with that. In our next dojo in June 5th, is Chris Hester from Red Desk Studio, and she's going to cover audience analysis. This also got high votes in the survey, and we've scheduled her for June. So if you're doing audience analysis and want to talk to someone who does it all the time, Chris Hester, formerly from the STC Society level board, will be here in June. All right, how do you sign up? You go to tcdojo.org, and at the bottom of the page you can find all the things that are coming up. We've got all through I think August or almost end of year planned. All right, any more questions for Bruce?
Can I take focus back for a second?
Sure, absolutely. Show your screen again.
Resources.
There we go. We can see you.
Great. Okay. I just wanted to point out these. That was my actual last slide after the end one.
I don't think you mentioned the Nuremberg funnel when you were on that slide.
I did briefly. It's a German metaphor for funneling information. It comes from a really old book, like I think 16th or 17th century book that was on something about German poetry, and the author talked about, the title was something like funneling the basic concepts of German poetry into the brain of children or something like that. And it, in a humorous way, which the author hadn't intended, and it became a sort of metaphor for cramming knowledge into people's heads.
Excellent. All right, folks. Thanks for coming to the TC Dojo, where it's all about you. I don't see any more questions. Be sure and subscribe to the mailing list so you get the link to this session once the video is posted, as well as announcements for future sessions. The link on the survey does go to the survey, and we do pay attention to that, as everyone noticed from my newsletter mailing out this month. We look at it every month to readjust our priorities and make sure that we're teaching what you want to learn. And Sam, I see you as one of the question answers. Sam has sent us some really good suggestions the last couple of months, and we're working on trying to figure out how to hold those sessions. Sam, we may want to talk to you and get some ideas from you, because your suggestions have been really good. Anyway, all right, our TC Dojo is a pleasure to host, and as always, if you need more personal help, rather just reach out through your communication method of choice. Bruce, thank you so much for doing this. I love it. Your presentation style is minimal too. You're fabulous. I love this. I love your examples. I mean, honestly, that order one, just like, I love that one more than I should probably.
Well, I really enjoyed it. First time I've done a webinar. I kind of wish, in retrospect, we had done questions in real time, because I confess to being slightly thrown off once I started. I felt like, well, I'm just talking to this. I felt like I'm all alone here talking to this screen. And when I've given presentations before, it's always been in person, and I think I feed off the interaction more than I realized.
Well, we will try it again. I'm sure that we'll have you back, because this was one of the most requested topics this year.
Yeah. Good.
Excellent. Thank you, Bruce. Thanks everybody for coming, and we will see you again next month. And Bruce, I'll send you the questions. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thanks.